Welcome to episode 118, and we're still at the Seremban School, and this is our main entrance area when you first come into the school, just so you get a bit of a tour while we're talking about the various things that we're doing. So we've looked at all 5 of the classical ways that we practice attacking or entering. As I suggested, those are the 5 main ways to practice. They're the ones that happen the most. The first 3 are the most typical within the family, that is the Tan Sau entry, the Pak Sau entry and the Lap Sau entry are predominantly the ones that you see most of the time. And the other 2, the Chum Kil Fuk Sau and the Gan Sau entry, are done here and there when you feel the right kind of energy and you feel like you can get away with those moves. But Sifu also passed on a few other ideas on little variations based upon his own experiences and things that actually happen in training. And sometimes you discover something else that might work given the conditions of Chi Sau. Not necessarily things that you'll do outside of Chi Sau, if ever, but it gives you a little bit more to play with within the drill, just to keep things interesting. And if you can come up with a little way that's a bit different, it tests your partner's ability to respond and try to counter. So I'll start with the one that's closest to what we looked at last time. So I'll invite Ganta over here. So last time we were looking at the Gan Sau entry, a variation that Sifu used to teach us, which is kind of an extension of that, is instead of sweeping to the outside and coming in here, we can use the Gwoh Sau hand to trap both arms. I'm actually pressing forward with the elbow and the upper arm here, and I'm catching his elbow at the side at the same time, and that allows me to then slip in, and it could be a groin strike or a body strike. So done at speed, it looks something like this. And obviously he's off balance immediately, so you can send him flying off into the side of the room. So again, in slow motion, I pin both hands. There's pressure here, so if he wants to use that, he can't get it to come out. The Pak Sau, just like in the form, is used to knock that out the way, and the other hand is free to come in. It could also transmit differently as a Popai. So there's no reason why you couldn't then come in with Popai Jiao and knock him off balance that way. So that's one little subtle one that you can play around with. Another, instead of the typical Pak Sau action, you might feel more comfortable controlling your opponent with more vigor. So you can Lan Sau, pressing down with the elbow while you strike, the other hand controlling the opposite side. So this would be the equivalent of when you're doing in the form, Chum Kil form, this action is basically what I'm applying here. As I press in, I lock down here and here. The pressure is going down into his hips, not towards his chest, it's going actually down as it's done in the form, going that way, not this way. And in the meantime, bang, your first shot's in and then follow up with whatever flows naturally. Another possibility, especially if your partner is putting a lot of pressure on the outside, is to use Pei Zhang, the hacking elbows movement from Chum Kil form. So again, another slight option, variation, takes his whole posture off him, pressing here and here into the body, free hand. He's got none, both hands are caught, strike straight away. And then, what else? We can try to control from under the elbow. This is the action in Chum Kil when we bring the hands from the Dai Bong out and up. So what I'm literally doing is slipping to the outside, taking his balance. I can hit high, I can hit low, I can follow up, again, very naturally. If you also want to take his whole posture and give him an extra bit of pain, then, and I mean that in a nice way, I'm not really going to hurt Ganda, then I can deliver a kick. This comes straight out of the Muk Yan Zhong, where we have a Gwoh Sau and a Dai Jiang and the midsection kick. So within Chi Sau, I would do it together. The difference from the form is the dummy's arm is only pointing in one direction and it can't change, so the Gwoh Sau is like that. But clearly you can see his arm is already in a Gwoh Sau position, so I'm not going to try to get round there. That could slip and he'd get in. So you just modify it and press forward. The bottom hand still does dai jiao. So a lot of people think this is an upward action. Upward action is not going to move him. It's a forward action. So within the drill, boom. Now he's off balance. You can come in and I use Gwoh Sau in that case and finish the job. So that's just to give you a taste of the possibilities. It's okay to experiment with things, but don't get yourself into the realm of fantasy, because then it starts getting silly. That's why we have 5 basic ideas and we see what might happen and little variations that we might try just to keep it interesting. But always go back to the basic 5, and especially first one, second one, third one. Tan Sau entry, Pak Sau entry, and Lap Sau entry, because they're the best. All right, we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.